So welcome to our Global Network webinars. My name is Alexander Loschke, and I will be moderating this webinar with my colleague Panya Yu. Today we have with us three experts who I will introduce in a few seconds and who will talk about mechanisms and initiatives that strengthen the implementation of the fundamental principles of official statistics. First, we will listen to Gabriel Games from the UN Statistics Division, who will introduce the newly established Consultative Advisory Board on the fundamental principles of official statistics. He will present the guidelines on the fundamental principles and will inform about the comprehensive course on the fundamental principles, which is designed to build capacity among statistical professionals. After that, we will have Misha Belkindas, who will present a new initiative called the Friends of Official Statistics Network, highlighting its role in fostering collaboration and support within the statistical community. Following him, we will hear from Dominic Röskrud of the International Association for Official Statistics, IAOS, who will present on the so-called Krakow Group and its contributions, and will also talk about the role of the Friends of Official Statistics within the IAOS structure. And finally, we will have another presentation by Misha, who is stepping in for Walter Radermacher, who unfortunately couldn't make it today, and who will present then the work of the Ethics Committee of the International Statistical Institute, or ISI, examining how ethical frameworks support the implementation of fundamental statistical principles. So before I hand over to Gabriel, just a few remarks. You can write your comments and questions into the meeting chat at any time. And then during the Q&A session, it would be nice if you could maybe raise the hand and ask the question yourself. Makes it always a little bit more lively. And as always, this Global Network webinar is being recorded and will be made available on the Global Network of Data Officers and Statisticians at yammer.com/UNStats. So if you haven't joined the network yet, we invite you to follow the link in the chat and sign up. And without any further ado, I would like now to hand over to Gabriel. Gabriel, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to all participants to this webinar. It's a timely one. We're discussing the fundamental principles of official statistics. What I wanted to say while I am sharing my my screen, 2 seconds here. Can you see it? But probably it's still in
not yet in presentation mode.
No. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, now it looks good.
Excellent.
Great.
What I wanted to mention very quickly is that when you're the first one, it's always good, right? I mean, in a way, then your job is done. Now, in this specific context, of course, we need, and also given the broad participation, I will have also to introduce what are the fundamental principles of official statistics, and then set the context, and then go to the various bodies that you have mentioned, and also the tools such as the guidelines, and also the e-learning courses that we are preparing, actually finalizing at the moment, so that the others will not have to repeat what the fundamental principles of official statistics are. There is here a slide that to me is extremely important. And it's very important to understand that before we understand what is statistics and then what is official statistics. We know that we're living in a world with a lot of data. And we have more and more data around us, data and information, including pictures. And it is quite clear also that data alone often does not speak to users. It often lacks meaning for most users when presented without context or structure. Statistics, and in my presentation, this is how it is understood. It's actually the broad science that includes all kind of techniques and not only traditional statistics, so basically surveys and censuses that provide the tools to organize, analyze, and interpret data effectively. We produce, as statisticians, we make use of the data. We need data actually to transfer knowledge to us. Of course, statistics is based on scientific methods, including data science. Statistics ensure accuracy, consistency, and usefulness. By transforming data into knowledge, statistics facilitate a deeper understanding and informed decision-making. I take often the example of a meal. When you bring all the ingredients of a meal, still you can't eat the ingredients as such. They are all there. It's a gold mine, but you need to transform that into something that makes sense to you. And this is actually the cooking. You will prepare the meal out of these ingredients that are fundamental, extremely useful, but alone and not prepared according to, a cookbook, for example, do not make sense for your guests. Now, what is official statistics then? And why it is distinctive? And you see that here that we put distinctive and not unique, because this again, unique would be a wrong term. A lot of data around us is absolutely key and deliver a lot of information that of course we need to transform so that users can will have an understanding about them, but it's something that is important, distinctive. Official statistics are those that are produced in accordance with the fundamental principles of official statistics. They are based on rigorous scientific methods. A point that is fundamental, serve the public good, meaning that when we produce official statistics, we don't produce statistics for us. We produce statistics for all users outside this production unit. And it can be the government, business, civil society, and the public at large. Official statistics prioritize trust, transparency, and a very important one, accountability. And I say here, unlike some other data or statistics, maybe it sounds a little bit rough. There are other data and statistics that are not official statistics that are of very high quality, and that's fundamental, of course. But official statistics has standards that promote openness and public confidence, or let's say in short, trust. Here are the fundamental principles of official statistics. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go through all of them, but I think for most of our participants, they have seen them already, right? There is relevance, impartiality, and equal access. Professional standards, scientific principles, and professional ethics, that's a principle 2. Accountability and transparency, that's a principle 3, it's core. Prevention of misuse and erroneous interpretation is not only what the others are doing wrong, but to think how we have to share statistics, including the metadata, so that others, the users, understand how they can use the data and for which purpose the data have not been designed. The sources of official statistics basically saying all kind of sources can be used for the production of official statistics. Can it be big data, web scraping, geospatial information, of course, the traditional one, or citizen-generated data. All data can be or could be good for the production of official statistics. Of course, the conditions is that at the end, we secure the quality of the output. So that's a fitness for purpose, but also that we have to take into consideration the costs and also the burden on the respondents. And there you can see immediately that new technologies and new data sources actually in general reduce the burden on respondents and reduce the costs in most of the cases because they have been already collected, such as administrative data. Confidentiality, that is fundamental, and confidentiality applies not only to data we have collected ourselves, censuses and surveys, but also to all other data we get access to. Legislation, this principle should be translated into a legal framework. And then the national coordination, that is fundamental, because if we are within a system is coordinated. The use of international standards, because we want statistics to be comparable over time, but also comparable between countries. And this is a point that is important. We should use as much as possible the international standards that have been endorsed. And then the international cooperation. How can we help each other actually to become better? This is the history of the fundamental principles, just to say that it has started in 1991. They have been developed by the Conference of European Statisticians under the UN Economic Commission for Europe to assist economies in transition. But very quickly, we have noticed that these principles did not apply only to those countries. It was actually, they were universal. And that's why gradually they became also universal principles. And I just want to recall you this year, 2014, when these principles have been adopted by the UN General Assembly. And this is an important point. These fundamental principles of official statistics is not just a kind of a gentleman's agreement. Okay, gentleman is no more maybe the word I should use nowadays, but it's actually a set of principles that the highest political body in the world, the UN General Assembly, decided to endorse and also actually asked us to comply with. And this is a point that is important. Of course, these principles, are not living alone. From these principles, actually, a lot of, I would say, international, regional, and national frameworks have been developed. We have these regional codes of good practices that exist in many regions of the world. I mentioned a few here, but they're not all here. ASEAN, for example, has also its code of practice. We have the United Nations National Quality Assurance Framework, which is actually, I would say, an operational translation of these fundamental principles. We have regional generic laws on official statistics, which actually help countries to incorporate these principles in their statistical legislation, but also a lot of other international and regional methodological guidelines. The decision at the 56th session of the Statistical Commission that took place, this year, so between the 4th and the 7th of March, 2025, endorsed the revised terms of reference of a Consultative Advisory Board on the fundamental principle of official statistics. Actually, the first time it was submitted was in 2023, and then we came with another, a revised TOR in 2024, and in 2025, these were endorsed by the Statistical Commission. This board, or the TOR, emphasized a supportive approach of the board. And even the Statistical Commission asked us to replace all the references to non-adherence with guidance to strengthen adherence, highlighting a constructive and respectful model of various national contexts. Launch an inclusive selection process for the members, and I will say a few words about that, approved the updated procedure and requested the Bureau to propose members for appointment at the 57th session in March 2026. So it means that this board at the moment is not operational. We need to go still through the process of selecting these members. And you will see that next year in March 2027 at the March 2026 at the 57th session, the Commission will actually nominate these members based on the proposal that will come from the Bureau of the Statistical Commission. They also endorsed the draft implementation guidelines, two sets of guidelines with a proposal for further refinement through a final round of consultations with member states and stakeholders. Actually, we went with this guideline, the one, and I will say a few words about that, the one that is for the policymakers, was submitted to the high-level group, because this is a strategic group, when the other one that are for the producers of official statistics, it was submitted to the expert group on national quality assurance frameworks, because we thought that having a link between the fundamental principles, or explaining better the link between the fundamental principles and quality, was essential when we try to explain why it is important to implement these principles. And also recognize the board's oversight role and confirm that the board will support periodic reviews of these guidelines that we will actually make live around September so that they remain relevant. So the boards in the future will be the body that will review these guidelines and at regular intervals actually propose some amendments or revisions. So what is the board, but also what the board is not? So the first point is the board is there to raise awareness and promote adherence, provide advisory services to national statistical authorities, review and share good practices, and we understand the link with the guidelines, because by reviewing and sharing good practices, where these good practices will be shared are exactly in the guidelines. Offer guidance upon request, so respond to requests for support from national statistical authorities. And the last point, what the board is not, and it's very clear actually in the terms of reference, it is neither a compliance nor an enforcement body. And I think enforcement body is very important. It is not an enforcement body. It does not issue binding recommendations or public assessment. So now what is the composition of the board? I'm sorry, I have to go a little bit fast because originally I had 10 minutes. Composition and terms, so we will have 10 to 12 members. 5 members are actually selected from the Statistical Commission itself. 5 to 7 independent experts will also be members of the Statistical Commission, and they should be experts in statistics, ethics, or data science. It's an example, it can be broader, appointed for 3 years, renewable once. And then the director of UNSD will be an ex officio member of this board. Selection roles, and this is actually with the Bureau at the moment. We are waiting for the green light, but the Bureau of the Commission oversees, of course, the entire process. It is its role. And then the Bureau, assisted by UNSD, identifies candidates from the Statistical Commission. We are in the process now. And then each regional commission, along with its statistical body, proposes 1 candidate, and UNSD may propose up to 2 additional candidates. The idea there is that we want a good regional and gender balance, and in particular, the regional one is important. That's why each regional commission has the possibility, is invited to propose 1 candidate. UNSD will come at the end of the process with 2 additional candidates, and I can imagine, we don't have the scenario now, but it could be one, that UNSD will take into account the composition of the board, or the possible composition of the board, based on those selected by the Bureau from the Statistical Commission, those selected by the regional commissions, and then take experts that increase actually this balance of in terms of gender or region of the Statistical Commission. And then, as mentioned, the Statistical Commission in 2026 will appoint the Statistical Commission appoint the board based on the proposal done by the Bureau. For the implementation guidelines and e-learning, we have actually proposed with the Statistical Commission already 2 drafts actually, and they were endorsed, but we are still refining them. Guidelines for producer of official statistics and guidelines for policymakers and stakeholders. In particular, we have been working very hard on of course, on guidelines for policymakers, guidelines for producer of official statistics. That's fundamental, and we know that. But what is new there, that we will also have guidelines for policymakers and stakeholders. We will try, and we have tried, not only tried, we have explained in this draft guidelines why the fundamental principle of official statistics remain relevant for policymakers, and their role is to create an environment around official statistics that is supportive of the implementation of the fundamental principle of official statistics. Then we have also proposed 3 e-learning modules. One will be the introduction to official statistics based on the first 6 chapters of the Handbook on Management and Organization of National Statistical Systems. And 2 e-learning courses. One, of course, they're all e-learning courses, but then 1 e-learning course for producers of official statistics. And I think it will be 2 sub-modules in this one, and an e-learning course for policymakers. So we'll have 3 main modules of e-learning courses on, official statistics in general, what it is, the relationship with the data ecosystem, how to manage, coordinate this national statistical system, and then 2 e-learning courses that are more focused, more specific, actually, to the fundamental principles of official statistics. Gabriel? Access and outreach, so all resources will be available. Yeah, it's my last slide.
Okay, please wrap up.
Yeah, but I had to introduce the FPOS, and I'm very sorry. I know. Yeah. So others will not have to do it. All resources will be available on the UNSD website in September 2025. We decided to come out with that all at the same time. Also because it will be launched, this launch will be supported by a promotional campaign, and it's easier to do it once, right? Also due to the financial considerations, at the moment. And then the draft guidelines are available already actually on the website of the 56 section of the Statistical Commission under background documents, item 3D. And that's my last slide. Thank you very much for your attention. I know it was dense, but I think it was really important to start with setting the context and explaining the fundamental principle of official statistics. Because of that, I had to be very short on the board and the guidelines and e-learning courses. Sorry for that. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks, Gabriel, for this overview on the board and the guidelines and the e-learning courses. We will share, just for everyone's information, so we will share the slides later on after our webinar on the global network. So please sign up. The link is in the chat. Some people had some hiccups accessing the link, but it should work. At least it works on my side. So I will now hand over to Misha, who will speak about the Friends of Official Statistics. Please go ahead. And you're muted, Misha. Now it should work. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to participate in that webinar and to present to you a few slides about the new network which has been created recently. We call it the Friends of Official Statistics Network, and how it's viewed to be collaborating in the statistical community. Next, please. Let me go. Gabriel put it very nice about the fundamental principles, about the universality and everything. But let me just play a little bit of devil's advocate and say that, with the data revolution and changes which are occurring and occurred in the data ecosystems, and with the new requirement with SDGs and so on forth, there is that the implementation of fundamental principles are becoming more difficult because there are more actors than it used to be before. Then we see more and more questionable usage of data by the governments for policy making, and some cases they use, I'm not afraid to say the wrong, not vetted data, and in some cases they don't use data at all. And the NSOs has a duty, is principle 4, that to comment on erroneous and interpretation and misuse of statistics. Next, please. In democratic societies, can you go back? Okay. In democratic societies, the country leaderships are changing due to elections. And in the recent years, we see that more and more governments try to deal with statistics that it would be there not to serve the society, but to serve the interest of newly elected politicians. And we see it all over the place. ISI and IAOS in the recent years have made statements on that. And it is very important that the NSOs, with support on the national NGOs and international community, deal with these situations in a professional manner. And the fundamental principles are very important, and this tool has to be used. And the last thing I want to bring in is geopolitical situation. The world is not becoming a nicer place in the recent years, and it's not more peaceful than we would like to have it. And the statistical systems during disturbances and wars are, of course, under stress. And that affects statisticians of their duty to present the economic and social conditions as truthful as they can. And international community, of course, should be ready to help. Now, about the Friends of Official Statistics, next slide, please. This idea came up a couple of years ago, and it was basically discussed between UNSD, Stefan Schweinfest, and IAOS, me as at that time president of IAOS. And a small group met in IAOS Conference 22 in Krakow and decided to move forward with this network. Initial paper was drafted and circulated. The paper was eventually converted to a draft tour. And when network matures, unfortunately, it takes longer than we thought. It will have a board and a chair which will be elected next to it. At the moment, what we have is we have a core group which has been constituted to move the network forward. And here is the list of the group. We have people from all over the world, as it was already mentioned about the bias, a speaker's bias. We have also a gender bias here, but it's just because if you go back, in many countries, we have the senior statisticians were males. So we have here also a biased group, gender bias, but it's very well represented geographically. Next one. So if we look at our at the tour as we see, so I won't go through all the things, but there is that the network members should work on advocacy for statistics, awareness raising, enhancing trust in official statistics. They should advocate for resources for official statistics, support legislative measures, and advise to producers and users of statistics upon request. They can be a very important resource. They also can support the newly created ISI Capacity Building Committee in their programs by sharing knowledge with statisticians in mostly developing countries. And, they also can reflect on data production and data use, both on good and best practices. And let me add that this group are the people who are basically, acting in their own capacity. They are not official statisticians anymore. And of course, that gives them a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more teeth, if I can use that word, to reflect. The next thing is that, and I say it's very important to say a few words about, next please, about the support to the national statistical systems. And I am just putting this slide just to re-emphasize that it's very important that this network can be used to support statistical capacity building in national statistical systems. And those of us who have been worked on capacity building, we know that for many years, the capacity building has been geared towards technical issues. And the important issues of statistical policy and relationship with data users are often forgotten. And that next please, the main user of our data, in addition to the society and academia and you name it, is the government. The government using taxpayers' money is paying for data. And it has to be clear that the data have to be used for policy and for other things which government is producing, which is extremely important. Let's say our new network has already got a request from a new entity which is called Amaristat in Ghana, which covers 5 countries of Western Africa, to help endorse the usage of fundamental principles of official statistics. And lastly, we will be hearing today about the Advisory Board of Ethics and about Krakow Working Group. And what is important that we, as the new network, we want to stand in to help those groups and supplement the groups with resource, intellectual and human body resource when needed. So thank you very much. I think I was brief enough, and Alex should be thankful that I at least saved a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Misha. Thanks for this. And now I will not delay this much further. So directly to Dominic, who will speak about the IAOS and the activities there. Please go ahead.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to have a short presentation today. I'll try to stick to 10 minutes a limit. So I won't repeat what was already said, but just in terms of the 3 little things I wanted to say, or maybe 2, like first is the International Association for Official Statistics, and then it's a Krakow Working Group, because you have heard already about the third thing, the Friends of Statistics, that has been introduced by my colleague Misha. So in terms of the International Association, just to quickly remind you of the objectives of our association. It has been established to promote the understanding and advancements of official statistics. And this is, of course, for all the countries globally, but we also focus on developing countries. But in terms of what happens nowadays, in terms of data revolution, I might say that, in some sense, all the countries are developing countries, because we are all faced with the challenges of what happens in a data ecosystem. So I just wanted to briefly tell you about examples of key activities that we undertook in last year. Like we have organized at the UN Statistical Commission side event about the fundamental principles. It was fundamental principles and beyond. We have organized a big conference of IAOS in Mexico City. We also had a SCORES, which is a standing committee of our association's SCORES conference last year on regional and local statistics. So these activities are quite wide. And but of course, we have continued doing other things. And one of those other things is the Krakow Group. The Krakow Group that is extremely important for us. So just to introduce you to this group, it was formally established by our association in April 2022 during our meeting, a biennial conference that was held in Krakow. hence the name of the group. Martin Durand and Jan-Robert Susser were asked and confirmed as co-chairs of the working group. And of course, the members come from diverse backgrounds, but also including representatives from the private sector, not only official statistics, but also the private sector. The core aim and purpose was to address the evolving challenges posed by society's datification and the challenge it poses for their official statistical systems. I've mentioned it already, datification, the data revolution brings both opportunities and challenges, especially in terms of ensuring accuracy, trustworthiness, and ethical use of statistics. And there's a never-ending list of problems that we have to tackle with. And of course, the more of the groups that would help us to understand what comes from this always evolving environment, the better for official statistics. So working group was tasked with contributing to addressing the challenges that we are facing at the moment. Initial activities that were held in 2023 mostly involved defining topics and organizing a set of debates. And we have organized, the group has organized 3 brainstorming sessions in 2022. And the first one was related to sharing experiences and interactions and discussing interactions with non-official data providers. And I will try to conclude them briefly. I know that the time is limited, but I think these conclusions are pretty interesting, very telling. I mean, first of all, the discussions have emphasized that collaboration with the private data providers can really enhance, of course, timeliness and granularity, but overall quality of whatever we are producing in official statistics. But for this the proper regulatory frameworks has to be established, and we are considering what's the role of official statistics within wider data governance settings. And last but not least, it's not only about the regulations. We are there supposed to build strong partnerships even ahead of any regulatory changes that are coming to our world. In terms of a second brainstorming session, it was devoted to increasing official statistics engagement with the users. And of course, it comes from this kind of like a simple and obvious notion that user engagement is important and getting even more important with all those changes in our ecosystem. That specifically also means discussing the issue of misinformation that threatens public trust and that official statistics has to fight and has a role in this regard. What have been achieved during that brainstorming session was this notion of educational programs or statistical literacy as a very important direction of our future work. Last but not least, third brainstorming session focused on ethical challenges like privacy, consent, and misuse of privately held data. We discussed the role of ethical frameworks and transparency, ensuring data integrity, and recommended engaging in dialogue to agree on formal guidelines for ethical data use, which, as you see, is a common topic for all those presentations that you had so far. These ethical considerations are really getting really important in the context of official statistics. So 5 main conclusions, if I would risk providing you with them, I would say were that official statistics must embrace innovation in process and products while upholding ethical principles and public trust. We need governance reforms and legal frameworks that should ensure that our statistical offices can effectively access and manage diverse data sources. That's especially important at the moment in terms of the privately held data. Then collaborations are extremely important. All these partnerships that I've already referred to, especially with the private data providers again, but also the media, fact checkers, are essential for a success of official statistics. There is nothing without education and a statistical literacy, so we need to take care of public engagement. And last but not least, we need to innovate. We need to innovate a lot and get out of the classical box in terms of designing our future. So in terms of the future, what are the direction? The Krakow Working Group decided to focus on just a few of those topics. Especially through enhanced engagement with actors not directly involved in the official statistics discussion. And the three major issues related issues were picked up, which relate to trust, misinformation, and ethics. So first is called maintaining and fostering trust, and here we want to explore the issue of partnerships with private data providers. Then second is addressing misuse and misinformation, of course, in order to combat misinformation through statistical literacy. And third is fostering ethical principles. So it's this lingua franca of whatever we're discussing at the end. And last but not least, there is this ongoing relationship with Friends of Official Statistics that have been introduced to you already by Misha. So I just don't want to repeat all of that, but the key roles that we see from our perspective as the perspective of the association is this advocacy, legislative and data access support, advisory and expert resource, capacity building, and promoting best practices. And in terms of relationships with the IAS, I would like to stress this kind of a strategic alignment of value proposition together with something that we call here moral support and guiding force. There is a complete independence of the people that are constituting Friends of Official Statistics. They're completely independent from all the institutional settings, so they can be our really our guiding force and provide us with this moral support that is very hard to get, so sometimes at times. And last but not least, collaborative ecosystem with the IAOS initiatives. That's what we think of. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dominic. Also relatively quick, so that helps me a little bit because we're already a little bit behind. So I will now hand over again to Misha, who will speak on behalf of Walter Rademacher, who is going to present on the ethics committee of the ISI, the International Statistical Institute. So while the presentation comes up, yeah, now it is up. Misha, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. I have the pleasure to introduce the presentation which Walter prepared, and unfortunately he cannot. He has some other engagement today, so I'll go briefly through it, and I try to do my best to explain. Next, please. So we go through the ethics of qualification, and he presented a kind of hierarchy, which is values, go to principles, guidelines for statistical practice, practice and standards, codes of practice, and regulations. Next, please. If we look at the ethics committee, and we are talking the advisory board on ethics. The advisory board on ethics in 2023 updated the Declaration of Professional Ethics, which was adopted in 2010 in Iceland in the conference in Reykjavik, and the updated version was endorsed by the ISI Executive Committee in 2023 in Ottawa. So we have the ethical guidelines for statistical practice, which are prepared. Which the Declaration of Professional Ethics is linked to other guidelines. So is mentioned here the ethical guidelines for statistical practice of ASA, the European Statistical Code of Practice, and many others, which actually Gabriel alluded to. So we have a big link with other codes of good practice in statistics. Let me just briefly introduce you to the next to the Advisory Board on Ethics. The Advisory Board on Ethics of the ISI is a group of 18 members, and as you see from the list, and particularly from the association, that they are so basically all the ISI associations and committees are presented in that group, and it's the membership covers the globe. So the activities of the committee are the main activity is to advise on ethical integrity, on ethical and on integrity issues. Then we have a program of work, and you know that. Let me go back. Can you just get the next slide? The advisory board, through the ISI executive, is making statements, and sometimes the ISI is making statements together with IAOS. Sometimes they do it themselves. Recently, with what is going on in the United States, the advisory board prepared a statement, and it was endorsed by ASA, so American Statistical Association. So it went out together with two organizations. The advisory board has a program of work. They're working on indigenous data sovereignty education. They we present online training courses for promotion on the principles, training courses on big data, data science, artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. And of course, this advisory board is liaisoning with other associations like American Statistical Association, Royal Statistical Society, FENSTAT, and of course other ISI branches like IAOS and Capacity Building Committee, and so on and so forth. So just a few words about the next, please, about the Declaration on Professional Ethics. So if we talk about Declaration of Professional Ethics, one of the main things which is mentioned there are the responsibility, and the responsibility of any statistician who is a statistician, data scientist who is involved in statistical practice. So you have responsibility, and the responsibilities against the society, the employers, clients and funders, colleagues, and other subjects. And in carrying responsibilities, each statistician must be sensitive to the need to ensure that action are first consistent with best interests of each group, and second, do not favor any group or at the expense of any other, or conflict with any other principles. Then we go into values, and you know, one of the values, important values, are, next please, are respect. We respect the privacy of others, and we promise that the promise of the confidentiality we have given to them. The most important, one important value is professionalism, that we value professionalism, which implies responsibility, competence, and expert knowledge and informed judgment. Then it's truthfulness and integrity. And the value of truthfulness and integrity are reflected in our work process that rely on independence, objectivity, and transparency. And if we go to principles, next please, we are pursuing objectivity, clarifying obligations and roles, assessing alternatives impartially, and with conflicting interest, and so on and so forth. So then the last thing is we're protecting the interest of the subject. I thank you very much. Next, please, for listening to me. And this is the author of this presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Misha. And now I would like to open up the floor. So for questions and comments, there were already a couple of questions in the chat that had been answered already in written form. So I would like either to come back to some of those questions or to some new questions. Anyone has a question, please raise your hand. That would be really nice. Otherwise, I would start with a question by Gérard Chenet. Maybe, Gérard, I see you on the screen with the camera on. Maybe you want to come in. I cannot hear you. Sorry, Gérard. I cannot hear you. Well, maybe
he's speaking, but I can see that he's speaking, but we don't hear.
Yeah.
We don't hear you, Gérard.
No worries. I will just read your question. Your question, in any case, is super short. So, does official mean with state recognition was the question, and Gabriel already answered it in the chat, but maybe you can elaborate it so we can have it also in the recording, basically.
Yeah, Alec, there is, of course, first of all, in the questions here, it goes a lot about quality, and eventually the quality of the data we have also in our publications, the UN publications, or other international organizations. Of course, if we are insisting on the fundamental principles of official statistics, it's because we want to improve the quality of data produced by the national statistical systems. We want them to adhere to the fundamental principles of official statistics, because at the end of the day, that's the way to ensure that data produced are fit for purpose, right? And actually trusted by the users. So the whole dynamic there is about this. The question about the audit was that, of course, the UN is not performing an audit of what countries are doing and the data we receive, but we conduct, of course, quality check, and if needed, we go back to the country with some questions if we have doubts, right? But we don't have to forget that the UN is an intergovernmental organization. Then the question of the state, the law, the government. Yeah, well, we can have our doubts, right? But what is very important is that the legislation is not only a binding document created by the government for the others or the parliament. The legislation is actually a kind of a statement that applies to the overall society, binding all actors in the society, the users, the data providers, public, private, NGOs, and others, right? About official statistics. This is a point that is important to me. If we see the law only as a piece of paper that was produced by the government and endorsed by the parliament, I mean, of course, it's very restrictive. It goes beyond the discussion that we had on the FPOS, right? But I understand the question. It's a good question, but we have to see the legislation eventually on national statistical system or official statistics, an important element to make sure that within each country, there is an adherence to the fundamental principles of official statistics.
Thanks, Gabriel. I also see in the chat a question by Stephen Whale on the Friends of Official Statistics Network. Stephen, you want to come in?
Hello, yes, thanks, Alex. Yes, it was just that I'd heard about this Friends of Official Statistics Network a few years ago, including in Ottawa 2023, and then forgotten about it until this seminar was announced. So I started Googling to see what was going on and so on, and I couldn't really find anything. Particularly, I couldn't find anything about how different categories of people who would consider themselves to be friends of official statistics could get involved and could support official statistics through that involvement. There are a lot of ideas and skills and knowledge out there, and really how best to use and leverage that from different groups. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Misha, maybe you can come in.
Thank you very much, Steve. I fully agree with you. We are much slower than we thought we will be, and you know, we still rethink. So far we are associated on the technical side with the UN Statistical Division. That was agreement with the director, but I understand that as of today, Stefan is not the director anymore, right? And we don't know how the new regime will look at us. But you know, we are a part of IAOS, and we'll need to now to talk to Dominique and to see, you know, how we can become more visible. You know, the important issue is that the members of that network, they are not bound to be members of IAOS or ISI, and they will not pay any fee for that. We are a complete, you know, independent group of professionals, and you know, there's anybody who wants to join can basically contact. At the moment, there are we are part of the Alexander's group, which is the Yammer group, or what different is now, but we are a closed group. So when people apply, we just look at them, vet them, and bring them on board. Thank you.
Thanks, Misha, and I see Gabriel has his hand also.
Very quickly, Alex, just to inform everybody that Ronald Janssen is now, since yesterday, actually the new officer in charge. I mean, director of the statistics division. And I wanted also to mention that whatever we call it, regime, right? I mean, but Ronald has been instrumental in setting up the UN Committee of Experts on Big Data and Data Science. And it will be very interesting, I mean, also to have this, I mean, optic or this view on the fundamental principles, how actually official statistics and the data ecosystem can coexist and be mutually beneficial.
Thank you, Gabriel. We've come basically to the end of our 1 hour of webinar time. I would still maybe take one question if there's anyone interested. If not, that is also good, because we all need to go then to different meetings and so on. I just want to finish by saying a few things also about the global network of data officers and statisticians. As Misha has mentioned, so this is hosted on yammer.com/UNstats until now. So we will transition to a new platform shortly, by the end of this month, actually, and we will move, and I can already announce this here, we will move to LinkedIn groups. You will receive additional information about this change in the next, in 2 weeks, more or less, and we will start onboarding people then to the new platform. Just for you to know, we will try to make the transition as easy as possible. But of course, we need also your help, right? So, so you will receive the information with instructions what to do. And then we move all over to the new global network of data officers and statisticians on the LinkedIn group. In the meantime, you can still sign up for the for our Yammer platform. That is good. Helps us also to keep track who is interested. So if you're new to the global network, don't worry, sign up for Yammer, and then later on you can move with us to LinkedIn groups. So that would be all for today. I thank everyone for joining. I thank the 3 speakers, and well, in principle 4, but one couldn't make it today. So I thank Dominic, Misha, Gabriel, and Walter, who's not here today, for the presentations. And please join us again for the next Global Network webinars. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.